Hi Ann, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm 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 okay. I'm doing okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh we're actually I think people can probably see we're recording this one in the daytime.
Yes.
If I lean a certain way, you can see like it's daylight out there. But it's all good. I should have brought Tizzy up because I'm getting a little jealous that Emily gets all the screen time in our shows, and so Tizzy needs to make an appearance at some point. But she was lying peacefully in a patch of sun on the side porch of my home, and I couldn't pick her up and
Oh.
move her because she just looked too content and happy. And you know, I was jealous of her. She was jealous of Emily, but I was jealous of her. So
I know. It'd
that's
be
how
nice
that
just to
goes.
be able to lay out in the sun. It's not been that warm in San Francisco. It's been in the low 60s here. So, because June.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm across the bay from you, and the days have been beautiful. It's a beautiful day today, but I'm at 5:30. It will suddenly just get cold. Just like in San Francisco, where I used to live out in the avenues, and the fog. Even it was a beautiful day, in the late afternoon, the fog would start rolling off the ocean, and it was like, holy cow, where'd that day go?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
still kind of the same thing here. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, let's do this. Let's get cranking here. We'll dive
Okay.
right in. Where do you want us to start?
I will start reading, and just for people who may be new to us on YouTube, I'm Ann Hawkins. I'm the
Oh,
Director of Communications for the Film Noir Foundation, and Eddie is the founder and president of the Film Noir Foundation, and he's on this little TV show called Noir Alley on
yeah, I do
Turner
that
Classic
too.
Movies.
Yeah, thank you. It's
More
been and
important, yeah,
it has been a very very busy. The summer has started very busy
yeah.
for me. I just came back from Atlanta where I recorded a bunch of new Noir Alley shows, and we're putting the poster together for the next Noir City Film Festival that we're going to be shooting here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then I'm finishing up a documentary film that I've been working on for a couple of years that should be done by the end of the summer. And I just signed a contract for a new book that I'm not going to mention quite
Okay.
yet. So it's good. Everything is going just fine in my life. Can't say the same for the world at large, but
Yeah, I don't.
let's just not go there. Although I can all but guarantee you that I'll probably make some kind of disparaging remark before we're done.
Yeah. And yeah, and just let people know. So this is going to air on, let's see, the 10th. Yes, the 10th, which is the day before Noir City Portland starts in Portland, Oregon at the Hollywood Theater.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to attending that. Our colleague Darl Sparks will be there as well, manning the Film Noir Foundation merchandise table and running donation drives for the foundation and all of that stuff. And I'm a big fan of the Hollywood Theater in Portland. I'm glad we're back there. Those guys are great. Dan and Ted are terrific guys, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, cool. So our first question is from Chris. In the late 80s, Turner bought MGM's library, which is now obviously under Warner. Warner has so many great silent films in their library, many in the public domain, that haven't been restored: The Crowd, The Wind, Greed, etc. As an expert on restoration and copyright with your foundation, why would they not be restoring these masterpieces? Why would it be difficult to get something restored when it's already in public domain? Yeah.
uh, Sorry, Chris. I don't mean to chuckle wryly or ruefully, whichever one that was. Um, okay, here's the deal. And I mean, I've kind of discussed this before, but this is a good question and it's so specific. I mean, Chris, don't hold your breath waiting for greed to be restored. That is not going to happen. I mean, many years ago, almost like 15 years ago or something,
More than that.
if not longer, 20 years ago, I think Turner Classic Movies actually did a quote unquote restoration of Greed that was nothing. I shouldn't say nothing more, but it involved just replacing a lot of missing footage, destroyed footage with still photographs that existed to kind of fill it out and give people an idea of what the story actually was. Okay, the reason for this is simply that all these movies are uh, they're the property of these corporations, and when you say the movie's in the public domain, that doesn't mean that if it's in the vault at Warner Brothers and it is now in the public domain, that Warner Brothers has any incentive to restore the film. They actually have less incentive than they had before. So there have been occasions where the Film Noir Foundation has realized this and been able to talk a studio into providing us with the materials to do a restoration. But it's not simple. It's not a simple thing. And let's face it, corporations, their mindset is it's better to do absolutely nothing than to do something and have it turn out to be a mistake that could end up costing me my job. That's basically the way American corporations work, right? The cover your ass theory is always in place. And it's there is a profit motive in everything. I mean, I don't want to jump right into this and go on a screed, but we are in a capitalist society, in a capitalist culture, and nothing is done because it is the right thing to do or the reasonable thing to do. It's done because there has to be money attached to it. There is no money in silent films. I mean, that's just a fact. There just isn't. And so the only silent films that are going to be restored are like what the Silent Film Festival does here in San Francisco, and it's just individuals getting that done. There is no way that a corporate entity will undertake these things. So, I wish there were more people like the silent or entities like the Silent Film Festival and the Film Noir Foundation, because that's what it takes to get it done. And this is not necessarily the way of the world. This is the way of this country, because that would not happen in France, for example. I've made this comment many times in the past that France is reverent about art and entertainment and things, and if the film has disappeared, the government will actually pay for it. In this country, that would be considered socialism, and it would never happen. I mean, people have talked to me over the years about why don't you work with the government, with the Library of Congress and stuff. And we've worked with the Library of Congress restoring stuff, but since in the past 5 years, the film side of that entity has we've lost a lot of people that work there. A lot of them have retired. It just I don't want to go too far into this and be a total doomsday person, but quite honestly, the corporations, and I wrote about this in an editorial recently in the Noir City magazine. The day will come when they will start thinking about getting rid of the material that they already own so that they can reproduce it for a new generation. Right? It's like if it is not inconceivable to me that, let's just say, Warner Brothers would like say, the Maltese Falcon, let's just get rid of the ones that exist and make a new one. And there's money in that for them. Is there money in doing yet another 4K, whatever the next generation is going to be, restoration of the original film? I hate to say this, but an accountant will be the one to make that decision. Not an artist or a producer. An accountant will make that decision, whether they think there's more value in that as a property with a new film made for a new generation with new actors, and then make the old one go away, because they will have the power to do that very, very soon. Anyway, okay, I'm going to stop talking about that now because it's way too depressing, I think, for the people who tune in to watch this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say something too. With the silent film restorations, there's also various cinematics around the world that collaborate together to restore films. And if you get a chance, if you for instance, live in San Francisco Bay Area. There's a San Francisco Silent Film Festival, but there's other places you can see silent films in a theater. And when you see those with live music, you really understand what it was like to watch a silent film. And I really, really recommend that experience so much if you can do that. Even just a lot of times, some places like Seattle has some things where they'll do like 4 films in a month or something like that. And just take up those opportunities because I think you'll be really amazed because I still think that the last couple of years of the silent period is still the high point of all time of film. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I recommend having that experience.
I,
And
I, I
also,
can't, I can't, I agree with you so much because I would say that some of my best experiences in a movie theater have been watching silent films with live music. I mean, I would say seeing Abel Gance's Napoleon at the Paramount Theater in
mhm.
Oakland with Carl Davis conducting the Oakland Symphony Orchestra with that film was the single greatest experience I've ever had in a movie theater. I also saw The Passion of Joan of Arc,
That was amazing.
and that which is incredible. And at the TCM festival years ago, I saw The General with a packed house at Grauman's Chinese Theater with a live musical accompaniment, and it was like those films had been made yesterday. That's how intense and riveting an experience it was watching those films. With the live music is great. It's just, but the live music is no more important than the live audience
Hmm.
and the big screen.
Hmm.
So it's yeah. I'm reiterating what you just said, Anne, and saying absolutely take advantage of it when you have the opportunity.
Yeah, and I'd also once again point out that physical media is a great thing because when things disappear from streaming, you can still watch something. And there's a lot of really great sort of boutique labels that will get the rights for stuff that the studio itself isn't releasing for home, and they will do special editions of it. So you'd be surprised what you can find out there. And I know, for instance, our partners at Flickr Alley who release our restorations, I mean, besides doing our stuff, they have a wonderful collection of films that you just wouldn't see otherwise
Well, they're
because
dedicated to putting out a lot of silent
mhm,
cinema on Blu-ray, which is fantastic. And they work the more esoteric side of the street, and which is incredibly valuable. So yeah, God bless them. Thank goodness they exist, and those other companies you mentioned as well. And I'm sure everybody has noted that that's pretty much the way it's going now. I mean, it's going to be independent boutique publishers that put out these movies on physical media because the studios they don't care about the history any longer. And there may be people who work there who do, but that just doesn't work on the balance sheets that drive
mhm,
everything they do. And so they're going to say, no, we're not going to do that. I remember saying to years ago, going to Paramount and saying, you guys haven't exploited your noir catalog. And they simply said, how many units do you think we'll sell of a noir title? And when I said between 8 to 10,000, they were like, that's nothing. That's not, if you'd said 80 to 100,000, we might have had something to talk about. And that is not the case elsewhere in the world. I mean, that is specific to this culture. That if there is not big money attached, we don't care. Okay, moving
okay.
on. Arthur says, "Do you know of a contemporary artist, painter, printmaker, etc., who is using film noir images as part of his/her work?" Um, I'm kind of curious about this question, Arthur, because I'm not sure if you mean like using the exact images or being inspired by them in their own work. Like collage stuff with images from the movies versus using the image or recreating the images as paintings or something. So um, we have we have done a lot of this in the Noir City magazine. We have
Mhm.
featured a number of artists who do this. I'm thinking of a woman back east named Anne Chernow, who her paintings are recreations of scenes from film noir, and she's had a number of shows back east. I actually, it wasn't just her show, but there was a in Florida, I think, at a museum, there was a exhibit, a multimedia exhibit of artists inspired by noir that I actually wrote the program notes for it. Uh, do you remember the driver's seat, the song driver's seat, dun, 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 by Sniff and the Tears? That was written by Paul Roberts, who is now a painter and uses film noir as his main inspiration in the paintings he does. And we have done a story about Paul in the magazine. And the one that killed me, this was the greatest, was Eve Plum, is who was Jan Brady on the Brady Bunch, is now a painter, and she paints mostly film noir inspired paintings. How about that?
That's awesome.
Jan Brady is inspired by film noir. There's also, I have one up here. I'll knock everything in my room over if I try to get it down. But years and years ago, I'm going to say almost 20 years ago, there was a fella in Michigan named Guy Budziak, and Guy does woodcuts, and he sent me one. I have a woodcut of his up on the wall here in my room from The Narrow Margin, of Marie being menaced by the guys David Clark and Peter whatever his, I can't remember right now, in The Narrow Margin. And yeah, Guy has done a whole big series of woodcuts, oversized woodcuts that are all inspired by film noir, and there are many more that
Yeah, because Cindy Sherman, who's like one of my favorite photographers,
yeah.
has also done some film noir inspired photos as well.
Well, it's interesting, Arthur, because you had said in parentheses painter or printmaker, so I'm leaving out all the other media where people are clearly, I mean, I've seen a lot of, obviously, music. There's a lot of musicians that are inspired by noir, and I've seen dance stuff, ballets and just modern dance pieces inspired by film noir, not just the scene in the bandwagon. Uh, you know, yeah, it's all media
Yeah.
has been touched by this. So
And in the book Inherent Vice, the protagonist, his parents have a habit of checking when they're on the road, of checking into hotels together using the names of characters from film noir. It's just a tiny throwaway in the book, but it just made me so happy.
well, the whole book is sort of,
Yeah,
very, very much a riff on hard boiled fiction.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't even get me started on writers. I mean,
yeah.
obviously that's a whole other thing. But anyway, that was a good one. Thank you, Arthur, for that question.
And this is from James in Chicago. I recently read the 1963 book Wanderer, written by famous movie actor Sterling Hayden. Not only did Hayden live an extraordinary life, with being a movie star as the least of his accomplishments, especially according to him, but I found his writing impressive. What do you think of the book, Eddie? And what other Hollywood autobiographies do you rate highly?
Yeah. Okay. I enjoy the book very much. I read it a long time ago and recently had reason to revisit it. I have three first editions of it, three signed first editions of that book. Um, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Should I confess here that I never actually made it through all the way through Hayden's novel, Voyage?
Wow.
Uh, Not that it's bad. It was just, it was such an epic. It's so overwhelming. That the pace of his narrative and the density of his narrative at the time I was reading it did not correspond to the pace of my life. Let's just put it that way. So I'm not being critical. It was just every page I was saying, oh my God, this guy put his heart and soul into this. But I just couldn't get to the finish line on that book.
So maybe he
Um,
is patterning himself after Melville then.
well, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, anyway, the reason this is a very timely question from James is because I am publishing Philippe Garnier's biography of Sterling Hayden,
Oh, awesome.
which which is very interesting. I mean, it's not a big, thick biography. It's, you know, if people liked Scoundrels and Spitballers or Philippe's biography of David Goodis, it's in that spirit. It's musings, and you know, Philippe has a particular style and approach to the subject that's really good. It's like a really, really long magazine essay. And so he doesn't get in. He just, what I love about the way Philippe writes is he writes all about the stuff that you want to read and he leaves out all the rest. it's
Yeah,
like, it's like what Elmore Leonard said about writing, right?
yeah,
You know, just put in the stuff that people want to read and leave out everything else. And that's sort of the way Philippe talks about Hayden's life, because he did have, you know, he was a writer, he was a soldier, he was a movie star, and he was first and foremost you know, a mariner, you know, a man of the sea. And he captures those things and leaves out everything else,
yeah.
right? So but what a life story. So that will be coming out soon. The book is laid out. Our fabulous art director Michael Cronenberg from the Noir City magazine is designing the book, and it's in the last stages before going to the printer. So that'll be done before the end of the year.
And Philippe also, when he signed my copy of the Goodis book, wrote in the best inscription I've ever had an author. Yeah, I've had an author put in my book. It was really sweet of him. Yeah.
Can you share it, or is that a personal
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, because I told him I was halfway through it and was really enjoying it. So in my book, he wrote, the second half is just as good. Which is just very personal, so I appreciated it.
Yeah, that's good. Um, so I'm excited about having that coming out. As for other, I'm going to stick solely with autobiographies here because that seemed to be the question, right? Yeah, autobiographies, right? Evelyn Keyes, her book, Scarlett O'Hara's younger sister, is one of the better written Hollywood autobiographies in my estimation. Uh, and I like Robert Parrish's two books about growing up in Hollywood. Um, those are excellent. And I, of recent vintage, I'm kind of cheating here by looking over at my bookshelf and trying to see, you know, most of the have, quite honestly, is biographies, not autobiographies. So like John Huston's autobiography, An Open Book, was interesting, but I couldn't escape the feeling that he wasn't revealing everything in that
Hmm.
book.
Yeah.
And so I felt kind of like it was incomplete. Like I'd rather read a biography of John Huston than an autobiography. I really enjoyed William Friedkin's autobiography, or his memoir, which, like I was saying about Philippe's books, I mean, Friedkin just tells you the stories that you really want to hear. And the thing was just so entertaining. It was so damn entertaining. And I love all those movies from the 70s anyway, you know. So reading about the making of The French Connection and The Exorcist and Sorcerer, and then reading him be so brutally honest about his you know, when his career kind of went off the rails, and what an idiot he was for a while in his life, which he fesses up to. And you know, that's what I want in an autobiography. You know, when the guy has reached a stage of their life where they're capable of writing a book like that, and they don't really care how they look to the world because they've done it. It's done it. It's basically over. You know, he's still, I don't mean that to be negative, but you know, he still had an opera in him, and he was making the Cane Mutiny and all that kind of stuff. But he was aware that he was deep into Act Three, and why hide anything? You know, so I thought the book was just brutally honest. And if you've ever seen Friedkin talk, you know he's a great storyteller and a raconteur of the first order. So I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and I think for me, Jean Tierney's autobiography is one of my favorite because if people don't know, she had bipolar,
Hmm.
and it's an incredibly honest book when people were not talking about mental illness, and it's just incredible. And of course, the stuff with her daughter is just tragic, which oddly Agatha Christie used in a mystery, even though she said she didn't base it on Jean Tierney, but it was yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
The Mirror Cracked. If people want to read it, it's a good
right.
book. And then also Dietrich's autobiography is kind of hilarious because it's not it's Marlena leaves a lot out. You got to read
I'm
Maria.
sure she does.
You got to
Yes.
read Maria, her daughter's book, if you want the full thing. But one of the things though but it sounds like Dietrich. Plus, she gives you lots of practical advice about always buying good clothes and having a few things that will last and stuff because she's German,
Yes. And
And
how to light yourself, how to light yourself for
yeah, I mean, she
maximum
does talk
effect. Yeah.
about stuff. Yeah, but also she also calls Bruce Bennett an incredibly stupid actor. So like every single time I see him in something in my head, I just hear Dietrich's voice going, "He's an incredibly stupid
Stupid actor.
actor."
It's funny you mentioned that. First off, thank you for that because I have not read that book. I have not read either one. I have not read Mom or Daughter. Uh,
Oh, they're great.
but I will do that. I will do that because I've just kind of had a rejuvenated interest in her, and I will definitely check those out. Uh, but it's interesting, Bruce Bennett. Explain him to me.
Well, they were in a movie together. It's not a good movie. It's like,
No, I mean,
yeah.
explain Bruce Bennett. Like, how
Oh,
how did this guy get to be? And I don't want to be rude, but there's a certain tier of male actors where you always run the risk of naming somebody's favorite when you do this. But you're kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like they could have picked anybody off the street to play this part, and I can't help it. But Bruce Bennett, he delivers every single line of dialogue in exactly the same kind of bored monotone. I do not get him in The Man I Love. Like, why is Ida Lupino head over heels for this guy? I don't. I totally get him in Mildred Pierce because I get why Mildred was like so fed up with this guy, and
yeah.
but it boggles my mind, and he never really was a leading man. He was always, I guess that was it. He was around to make the leading man look more interesting. you know?
Could be. Yeah. Yeah.
sorry if one of Bruce Bennett's kids or something is watching this. I apologize. He had a good career, and I know he was a Olympic athlete. I mean, that I'm sure was part of his
Oh,
appeal
yeah.
in Hollywood because he was quite an athlete. But his whatever he was supposed to have was totally lost on me.
I mean, Weissmuller was not a great actor, but God, he had charisma,
Who
you
is
know.
this?
Johnny Weissmuller, who was
Oh
also
yeah,
known
yeah,
for
yeah,
acting. I mean, yeah, he wasn't really a great actor, but he had incredible charisma.
yeah. And there's just I'm sure people are chiming in with their own versions of this. Like somebody like John Lund or just sort of, he's not bad. He's just serviceable.
Yeah.
He's serviceable. Anyway, okay.
Okay.
Um, this is me now, right? Okay, yeah.
Yes, three.
Okay, embarrass. No, wait. No,
Oh no, I should read this
four. Okay.
anyway.
Yeah, you should because it's embarrassing when I have to read these things. So
But and also it's my turn as well there. I forgot. Okay.
no, I think you read the one about Sterling Hayden writing Wanderer. That was the last one we did.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Eddie, I bought and read and loved your novel, The Distance. Now I would like to read your follow-up, Shadow Boxer, but the only copies I can find are exorbitantly expensive. Any chance this novel will be reprinted and re-released?
Um, I hope so. Uh, I'm trying to think. There was something. Uh, Well, yeah. I mean, that will happen when I finish the third novel,
Okay.
and because it will be part of the deal
Right,
that
right.
you have to also publish it with the first two, and we'll see when that happens. You know, I'm debating whether or not to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway, even though it's probably a mistake to tell this. But I recently received an email years and years ago, back in 14 years ago or something like that. Um, I was the Toastmaster of the BoucherCon World Mystery Conference, and when it was held in San Francisco. And the organizer of that conference talked a number of writers into doing this charitable fundraising drive that consists of auctioning off a character in an upcoming novel, right? So the character would be named for someone. So you bid on this, and then that character had the name of someone. You promised to do that. Well, here's the deal, right? I mean, they talked me into it in a weak moment because I didn't really want to do that, but they persuaded me. Of course, that third novel never appeared. And I recently got an email from the woman who I guess was the mother. She wanted it for her son or something. And she was telling me I had to give her the money back. And it's like, it wasn't my money. I mean, and it was a charitable donation, right? And she was saying, you can just pay me back because it never happened.
Yeah.
And for starters, there are a lot of, I'm pretty impervious to criticism, right? But there's nothing hurts a writer more than saying, "Where's that book that you said you were writing? Why didn't you ever finish that book?" I mean, that's like sticking a knife in me, right? So I don't really, yeah, I guess I should finish that book so that I can include somebody's name in it, you know? Uh, and it's also not like I just put it off. I mean, it'd be one thing if books came out and I hadn't upheld my end of the bargain, but you know what? The book hasn't been finished. So anyway, that was that, and it kind of irked me. But I wanted to share that story only to tell this story, that I had another colleague of mine, this who shall remain nameless, but a pretty successful author. Like, it has a television series based on his books and everything. And he did this one time, and I mentioned it to him, and I said, "This doesn't really sit right with me." He goes, "Well, just do what I did." I couldn't stand the person that bid on it. So I made the character the guy that gets his head beaten in and killed like the first chapter of the book. And I described it in graphic detail, and I made sure that he had a name.
Oh God. Well,
I love that. I love that.
I may have told the story before, but John Carpenter, Michael Myers is named after the representative, or the distributor of Assault on Precinct 13 in Europe. And it was an homage to him. He really liked the guy and was really grateful.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, I'm going to make this guy the serial killer.
No,
but
it's
of course,
opposite.
in John Carpenter's world, that's like, now you're going to be famous forever.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's one of the greatest characters of all time. So yeah, but that was his sort of gratitude towards him, was doing that.
Interesting. Good. I didn't know that. That's a good story. Okay, now I think it. Oh, now I read because you read.
You read because I read the last
one. And this is our buddy Kingpin Johnny in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I'm sure I'll see Kingpin Johnny when I go to Phoenixville in November. Pre-code films were significant precursors of film noir, don't you think? Both embrace sordid behaviors, cynical attitudes, and sardonic humor. What other pre-code titles would you recommend as particularly noirish? I presume 1931's Babyface, starring Barbara Stanwyck, would top the list. Not necessarily. I mean, it's Barbara Stanwyck tops any list for me. But and then he says, P.S. Eddie and Bruce are the best tag team ever at TCM. I don't entirely know what that means, Johnny, because I mean, Bruce and I both do things at TCM, but we've never done anything together at TCM. So I don't know. Okay. Well, last week or last episode, whatever we call these things, last installment, I remember we talked about I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, which is certainly like a proto noir, pre-code proto noir. Have you ever seen Ben Hecht's Crime Without Passion with Claude Rains?
What happens in it?
He's a sleazy, arrogant attorney who commits a murder and then defends himself in court.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Has an amazing pre-title sequence by Slavko Vorkovich with the Furies coming down out of the sky, and oh my God, it's an amazing film. Co-directed and photographed by Lee Garms. So that's a really great movie. And we've shown several pre-code noir films at Noir City.
Because we did all the Hammett ones. We did the marathon of Hammett.
Exactly.
One Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Or we showed the original 1931 version of the Maltese Falcon with Ricardo Cortez and B.B. Daniels. But it's funny, I don't really think of that as very noirish, the 31 version.
Yeah.
But
even though it's my favorite portrayal of Effie.
Yeah.
In terms of the book.
Right. And it is interesting how similar it is in some ways, the characters of Gutman and Joel Cairo are pretty, you can tell that it's that character, definitely. There was a movie called Afraid to Talk, directed by Edward L. Kahn, when he was a good director until he just pumped out movies like once a month. And that's a terrific pre-code noir, Afraid to Talk. It's also called The Merry-Go-Round. And then we showed that with a movie called OK America, which is like an early media noir thing. Lou Ayres plays like a Walter Winchell type character, and it's all about anyway, the whole plot leads up to the White House and everything, but it's a really good film. Tay Garnett directed that. Then there's these fabulous Roland Brown movies from 20th Century Fox, Quick Millions and Blood Money. Those are completely unique in that time. They're not like any other movies in the way Roland Brown writes and directs. They're way ahead of their time. I highly recommend both of those. There are two Mervyn LeRoy films, Heat Lightning and 2 Seconds with Edward G. Robinson. Very much.
I was thinking about 2 Seconds.
Yeah, that's very much a proto-noir because it's like a flashback from the death house where the guy is about to be executed, and the movie flashes back in true noir fashion to explain how he got there. If you want a big an underrated, or not underrated, but an underseen great cops and robbers movie is Beast of the City. Charles Braben's Beast of the City with Walter Houston, which has the most violent shootout in movie history up to that point, is the end of that film. It's fantastic. Any others that pop into your mind? Those are the ones that off the top of my head I highly recommend.
I mean, it's technically pre-code because it's a silent film, but Cottage on Dartmoor.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't think about. Yeah. Well, that's also British. That's a British film.
It's a British one too.
So I was kind of really
for American pre-code,
sticking to the letter of the law here.
Okay.
Like pre-code to me always refers to after the advent of talking pictures, but it's that 1930, 31 to 34 period is kind of pre-code to me. Otherwise, it's a silent movie, in which case I'd be talking about Underworld and Thunderbolt, all kinds of films not necessarily from Hollywood. Anyway, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm gonna digress here for a second. This is something a point I wanted to make in one of our shows that is really interesting. I know people watch this because they love getting recommendations for stuff they haven't seen before, they haven't read before. That's a big part of, quote unquote, the service we provide. But it is interesting that when I do that on TCM, it's funny how people write in to say why, or email me or post on social media, why didn't Eddie mention this film or that film? Because and it's like, you have to realize this is not a print thing. This is on television. And I can tell you, when I stand there and start to do a list of titles, I can feel the entire crew going like, how many of these is he going to cite? Right. So because it on television, that is a long time. The difference between listing 3 movies and listing 6 movies, it's twice as long.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if I want to say, whatever, Dan Duryea made so many great noirs like, Scarlet Street, Black Angel, and Criss Cross. I guarantee you that there's going to be hundreds of people. Why didn't you mention Ministry of Fear? Why didn't you mention The Woman in the Window? And it's like, I can't stand there and give you the guy's entire filmography when in front of the camera. You can, in a magazine or something, it just becomes a sidebar. Like, here are all of Dan Duryea's noirs.
Or there's this thing called the internet, where you can type in Dan Duryea film noir, and it will bring up a list.
But here's the secret reason I'm saying this, Anne. I think it's partly motivated because people want to think they're catching me at something. Yeah. Like, you don't you know about this one? And it's like, yeah, I know about it, but I can't say them all,
No.
So anyway, I had to get that off my chest. Okay.
This is you.
It's you. No, it's you.
Is
it
you.
Me? Yeah. Number 6.
Because it feels like a question. It's such an Eddie question, so that's why I was thinking.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
This is from another regular, not a first-time caller, that's for sure. Joe from Suffolk, New York. When Blood on the Tracks was released, Noir, I love this, Noir songwriter and musician Bob Dylan, I wonder if Bob Dylan would accept that, was reportedly puzzled when people told him how much they enjoyed the album. How could they find enjoyment in art drenched with heartache? Do you enjoy In a Lonely Place and Criss Cross? If not, what word would you use? I get where he's coming from, I suppose. Like, how do you enjoy something that's crushing and makes you feel bad at the end? That is I enjoy them, right? You enjoy horror movies, right, Anne? You enjoy horror movies, even though they're not supposed to be enjoyable. So I don't know. I mean, I would always use the word enjoy, because I guess enjoyment is when something gives you pleasure. Mm-hmm. And the movies are giving me pleasure, even though they are heartbreaking. And the difference is, I suppose, and I don't mean to be flippant or anything, but I understand the purpose of art.
Yeah.
It's not real life, it's art. And so what I'm enjoying is, wow, they took this to a place where they weren't just thinking about how do we take people's money and make them feel better for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. To me, that's not art. That's just entertainment. And there's a place for that, right? You want to go see an uplifting movie or something. So I have always been utterly dismissive of people who say, "Oh, I like that movie up until the end, and then I hated it because it, it's like people who hate Chinatown because it ends so miserably." When I think that's why it's great. That's why that film is absolutely the greatest, is because that ending is just devastating, right?
And it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
You,
You know,
how do you mean?
I mean, it's emotionally true. It's
Oh,
true. I mean, it's true to life
oh,
too, and it's
absolutely. Well,
true to the arc of the characters and to the arc of the story. I don't like it when something's kind of going along and then the ending doesn't match what happened previously, and you're like, where did
like
this come from?
80% of film noir movies made in Hollywood. Yeah.
Right, where they kind of like, you know,
where it's like suddenly they tack on the, don't ever let this happen again. There are laws in this town, and blah blah blah.
or whatever, and then some don't. And as we all know, I like the studio ending of On Dangerous Ground, so I can't.
Yeah, but I mean
I have
that's
my weakness
but
there.
all things considered, that's a very it doesn't swing too far towards being uplifting. I mean, he just goes back,
Yeah.
and there's no guarantee that anything is going to work out. It
All
just,
right. Yeah.
you know um anyway, I suppose you could say I find these movies affecting. If it like enjoyable, maybe they're affecting or something, or they're emotionally satisfying. uh but I've never understood, even when I was a kid. I always kind of got, uh I was going to say gleeful, and maybe that's not the right word, but like when the ending was really dark,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, it was kind of thrilling. It was exciting. But I think it's essential. I think you can only feel that thrill when you kind of, part of you understands this is a story. This is a work of art. There's somebody behind this making this decision. I don't feel a thrill watching a car accident.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
feel
Right.
horrible. I feel horrible, uh, but this is a created piece of work, and I like to see people take risks and gambles and not just succumb to the, well, now we got to send him home happy. I hate that. I hate that.
And I think it can be really like, because I'm gonna do this without spoiling it, I promise. But the end of Black Angel kills me every single time because technically it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
Technically, it is a happy ending, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels devastating, and I really like the. I thought that was such a clever thing to do, where
Mm-hmm.
like I mean, technically, get studio happy ending.
Okay. Well, you're right, and I'm glad that you didn't spoil it for
Uh,
people.
I'm not gonna say why, but that is one of my favorite films.
But and those endings I love too. They work really well. Like the ending of The Big Heat, right? It's all resolved, but he goes back to work, but it's a very low key. There's no triumph
Yeah,
in him going back to work. It's like now it's going to all repeat again, right? Because the system is corrupt, and he did his thing and he got his vengeance, but Debbie's dead, and it's not an upbeat ending. Anyway, okay. I
yeah.
think I appreciate the question, Joe, and I think a lot of people who like film noir, I think I just spoke for a lot of people who like film noir. Let's put it that way. Okay, your turn.
What is your favorite language? What is your favorite language to listen to in foreign noirs? Conversely, is there a language that grates upon your ears? Do you watch English language television with the closed captioning on?
Interesting. What, you go first? What do you think? Is
I
there a
mean,
particular language you like listening to if you're watching for? Well, is it Dutch for movie? You're crazy for the
Danish.
Danish
Danish. No,
films. Yeah.
Italian is actually my favorite
Uh,
language just to listen to. I love Italian and Spanish. Um,
they're hot.
Spain Spanish. Sorry. the rest of the Spanish speaking world. But that's what I mean by Spanish, definitely. There's not really a language that grates on my ears, to tell you the truth. And do you watch English language television? Yes, I do, with the closed captioning on, mainly because no one knows how to mix audio anymore.
Oh. Well, okay. So that's two separate issues.
So that's two separate issues. But
There's,
yes,
there's the muddy sound mix,
yeah.
right? There's Christopher Nolan's thing. If you're not supposed to understand everything, if it's a war film, you don't get to hear the dialogue perfectly enunciated.
What's his excuse for every other film he makes?
Well, I don't know, but that it's a stylistic choice that he must be making, because boy, that never would have flown back in Hollywood, where they would re-loop, everything if it wasn't perfectly understandable. But that's different than, like, I listen to some shows from the UK with closed caption because the accents are so thick I can't decipher what they're saying. Like this recent show Adolescence that I watched, at a certain point it was so fast and there was so much overlapping dialogue in these dialects, and that it was like I have to turn on the closed caption just to follow what they're saying. But as far as the languages, I don't really have a favorite. But I find it interesting, and one of the things I enjoy about watching foreign films, and particularly noir, is that the voices just become like music. I don't speak any of these languages, so it's just interesting because it all becomes a part of the performance. Like, in Italian, like you cited, Italian and Spanish, and those are, hot languages where there's a lot of emoting, and there's a rhythm and a thing to the language that I think is really, really fabulous. But I love listening to Japanese.
Me too.
And yeah, so I there's no one that stands out. I mean, it's funny, you would normally say, is there a language that grates on you? And this is something that I came to when I was not as sophisticated or as well versed in the films. I would have said German, because Germans in American movies were always depicted harshly.
Yeah.
As having these barking, they were all Nazis, right? And then you start watching German films and you realize that's not actually what German sounds like. I mean, it is a crisper, more curt language than Italian or something, but it's, the performances don't make it that way, so.
Well, not that, but also German words are amazing. Some German words are just amazing because it's kind of hard to explain, but they have very, extremely specific meanings, which I really love that about German. So it's kind of funny because you wonder how much you lose when we watch something subtitled from German, because Germans have very, very specific words for things, and it's kind of interesting because, how much meaning you lose that way. Now, I think German is actually a beautiful language, personally. But
I mean, that was the thing. You had to get away from Hollywood movies of that era we love to actually hear German spoken in a normal way. And the other thing that throws me with foreign languages is I've still, like, some of the Asian languages or Middle Eastern thing, where there are so many, and this is more of reading thing. When I'm doing research or something, you come across names and it's like there's 42 letters in the name, and then you hear them say it and it's like mushka. And it's like, wait a second, that can't be that word. It's like, it's 5 times longer than that. But it's like when I go through this whenever I have to whenever I get to introduce like a Japanese film on Noir Alley, where you have to just slur everything in Japanese, because there's so many vowels but they're not all individually pronounced, and so
Oh,
you just have to run it all together.
You should try Danish.
Oh, I'll come to you.
Other Scandinavians make fun of the Danish language.
I'll come to you for coaching, and if I introduce a Danish film. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's me now, and it's Ken. Is there an actor or actress from the classic era? I think we've had this one before. Actor or actress from the classic era that either never appeared in or was not featured properly in film noirs, but you would have liked to have seen in a good one. And he says, my choice is going to sound rather corny, but the Errol Flynn of the late 40s, early 50s would have made a good fit in film noirs, in my opinion. But then again, maybe not. Our buddy Alan Rohde just showed Cry Wolf with Errol Flynn and Barbara Stanwyck at the Palm Springs Noir Festival. So, I mean, he did kind of come close. I mean, that's really not a film noir in my estimation, but and I guess when Errol Flynn started to come apart at the seams, he would have been a better fit than the dashing, swashbuckling Errol Flynn. And I think when we had this question before, it's not the same question. It's not the same person asking the question. I think I said Greer Garson was my choice, just because she was so virtuous and everything. And there's something about noir that you want to, the fallen woman, like you want to see Greer Garson, in the gutter. So I guess I'll do it a different. It's interesting. There are big stars who never even came close, right, to making a film noir. They didn't do crime movies or anything, so it's like, who? Well, obviously John Wayne.
But there's McHugh.
Well, that's much later.
But it's much later. Yeah. But that is one of my favorite performances of his.
Okay. Isn't McHugh the one that was
set in Seattle, and it's a crime film?
Then I don't think that's
sort of, it's very neo-noirish. We play sort of this cynical detective, and he has this whole great back and forth with this woman who's an addict, actually.
But that was, I believe, inspired by Eastwood's success with Dirty Harry.
I believe so. Yeah,
I think that was like John Wayne was saying, I got to do one of those.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the guys who were like the heroic romantic types, they don't do the noir, like Gary Cooper in noir. Or Clark Gable never really made anything approximating it, although I just wrote an intro for Sudden Fear, which I'm going to be showing on Noir Alley this fall, and I was kind of surprised in my research to learn that Gable was Joan Crawford's choice to play Lester Blaine.
Ooh.
Right. Before she got around to Jack Palance, right? She said, what about Clark? Which would have been interesting because, right, I mean, they had made films together in the 30s, and that would have been interesting to see Clark Gable in a dastardly role like that, but I don't think it would have worked, because I don't think the public would have accepted it.
I think Gable was too old for the part. To me, it worked better to cast an actor that was younger than Crawford in that role. Yeah,
although it's impossible to tell how old Jack Palance is.
Yeah,
I mean, with the face, it's like you can't really tell how old he is.
But he still seems younger than Crawford, sort of added to their dynamic. I think
she was like 46 or 47 years old when she made that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, but anyway.
And then Don Siegel wanted Audie Murphy to play the Zodiac Killer in Dirty Harry, which, God, that would have been fantastic.
That is, although, let's face it, you cannot do better than Andy
Oh,
Robinson
he was fantastic.
in that
Yeah,
movie,
yeah, yeah.
right? And I remember because did you see when I interviewed Andy Robinson at the
Yeah, it was
TCM
great.
festival? Yeah,
And I was going to go to something else that morning, but I was running a little late. I said, screw it. I haven't seen Dirty Harry since I moved to San Francisco. I need to see that on a big screen.
and how great was he? I mean,
He
his
was
interview
fantastic.
afterwards was just what an incredibly nice guy he
Yeah.
is. Just so bright and so personable. I mean,
Yeah.
the antithesis of what he portrays on screen. It's
Yeah.
incredible, and I love that story about how Eastwood just saw him in a play and took Don Siegel to see it, and they just cast him backstage like
Yeah.
immediately. He didn't test or anything. It's like this is the guy,
Yeah.
and this is the girl. Uh, yeah, he's just terrific.
Well, and I think that's what works so well. And if people haven't seen it, Hellraiser, which is a great film, is that he could play both because basically his character at the beginning is a sort of loving father and stuff. And at the end, there is this creepy ass thing where he sort of his body's taken over by his evil brother, and he is just like, ah, and just really gets under your skin, which is kind of a funny
Yeah,
pun considering
and
yeah.
exactly, of course. And he taught acting. He taught acting at I can't remember whether it was USC or UCLA or something, but he was an acting teacher,
No,
and
I bet he was great.
I think he still might be. Anyway, that was off the track. I don't know why we're talking about Andy Robinson. But did you have one, Anne? Somebody from the classic era that you would have liked to have seen in a film noir that never made one?
Yeah, I was trying to think of this before, and no one popped to mind. It's gonna be. I'll call you at 3 in the morning when it pops into my mind inevitably, because I
Yeah.
thought this was such a great question, and I feel like there was someone that I've seen before. I thought, oh, they should have put him in a noir, and I just can't remember who it is at this point. Well,
Yeah, I mean, it shows you how pervasive the noir movement was in Hollywood because it's hard to think of actors who didn't make at least one.
yeah,
I mean, those three guys I cited, yeah, they did not do it. Greer Garson, never, never. Um, but a lot of other actors and actresses kind of veered into that territory. Betty Davis. If you want to call the Snake Pit kind of a noir, then Olivia de Havilland did The Dark Mirror, right?
yeah.
That's totally a noir.
Oh God, this week I just watched the Agatha Christie, I think it was 1982 movie of Murder is Easy, and Olivia de Havilland's so great in it.
I don't know this. What is the
It
film?
was one of Christie's standalone novels about this guy who meets this old lady on a train, and she tells him, "Oh, I'm going to Scotland Yard because there's a murderer in my village. It's like making it look like accidents and stuff." And he kind of like blows her off. And then she gets run over by a car in London. And then the guy that she said was going to be next is killed. So he decides to go to this little village and try and figure out who the killer is. Yeah, it's really good.
It's good.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. It's not my. It's like the book's fantastic. It's a pretty good adaptation of it. It's Bill
What year? What
Bixby.
year was it?
It was like I think 82.
Okay, so it's later. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to show this on Noir Alley.
No, no, but it would just be fun for you to watch. And because,
Yeah,
and Leslie Ann Down is in it. And I kind of forgotten how beautiful she was.
always worth watching Leslie Ann Down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Yeah.
yeah.
But Olivia de Havilland plays this older woman who also lives in the village. The woman that plays the old lady who gets killed at the beginning of it, by the way, was played by Helen Hayes,
Oh,
who went
okay.
on to play Miss Marple twice in this sort of small period of 80s Agatha Christie adaptations for American television.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the
Okay.
recommendation. Um, okay, you're reading number 9, I think.
This might not, hold on, this might not be a popular opinion, but I've often felt, as does my wife, that Fred MacMurray's speech patterns and double indemnity are not convincing enough. He's trying for Noir-like clipped speech, but it sounds labored to me. Don't get me wrong, I love the film and it's one of the greatest, but I've often thought that this aspect holds the films back a bit. What is your opinion regarding this matter? Robert.
That's so funny. Okay, here's the deal. I think the people who have a problem with Fred MacMurray's language or his delivery, that's what it is. It's his delivery. And Barbara Stanwyck's wig in Double Indemnity, I think they don't get that these people are phonies. They're not supposed to be believable characters. They're phony. They're lying about who they are. And I think that these things are intentionally there to indicate how fake they are, right? Yeah, because Fred MacMurray is putting on a tough guy act. So he's aware of that as the actor playing the role, that he's not genuinely a tough guy. He is not Robert Mitchum. He's not going to deliver his lines as, shall we say, as insouciantly as Robert Mitchum can deliver those lines. He is trying to impress upon people that he is somebody other than who he actually is. And so is Stanwyck with the wig. You know, there couldn't be a more obvious warning flare about this woman than that wig. It's just like, you know, if that was me that went to the house, I like the first thing I'd say is, "What's with the wig?" Yeah. It just doesn't work. It doesn't look right. But that's kind of the point. So anyway, it's because I'm not exactly sure what it is people are looking for. Like, it would be perfect if only, because that was clearly not the intention of the filmmakers. It's not like Billy Wilder makes that many mistakes when he's directing a movie, right? I mean, they did tests of Stanwyck in that wig, and he said, "Perfect." So I'll take his word for it, right? And when Fred MacMurray delivers those lines, this is Billy Wilder we're talking about.
Yeah.
He was saying, "That's exactly what I want, Fred. That's exactly what I want." So I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the guy is a phony.
Yeah.
And that's one of the clues in that effect. I mean, he stops doing it towards the end. I mean,
Yeah.
he starts delivering his dialogue as a man who realizes he screwed everything up.
Yeah.
So, you know, there you go.
By the way, Barbara Stanwyck's wig from that shows up in an Audie Murphy movie. In the what's it called? Is it The Wild? Yeah, The Wild and the Innocent. They use it for the female lead in that.
Now you don't mean the actual
Yeah,
wig.
the actual wig.
Holy cow. I wonder if it still exists. Imagine how ratty that thing must be if it still was
If
around.
it's still somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they kind of, yeah, that was courtesy of AMC when they used to actually show classic films. And
Wow.
Nick Clooney.
Oh yeah,
that,
Nick Clooney.
story.
Nick Clooney.
Yeah.
For anybody who watching this who doesn't know, and Nick Clooney, who used to host American Movie Classics, is George Clooney's father.
Yeah. Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Last question. And this is pretty long.
Yes. Because as I said in my email to you, I really wanted to keep it because I wanted all the context and stuff. And this is usually this is our friend Michael from Post Falls, Idaho. Yeah, you normally, so people know, I kind of edit down people's stuff, but a couple times when someone's sort of telling an anecdote,
yeah, well, they're telling you an anecdotal story.
It's
about this is what happened to me and blah blah blah. Yeah, you don't want to. So I'm just going to read it. Okay.
Okay.
On a recent episode of the Jeopardy's Master Tournament, the contestants were given a visual clue in the movie category, which showed side-by-side photos of Harry Powell from Night of the Hunter, with the, you know, love and hate on the hands, and Max Cady from Cape Fear. I was shocked when no one recognized Robert Mitchum as the actor. After all, these people were supposedly the brightest and most accomplished trivia experts in Jeopardy history, and they couldn't identify one of the stars from the golden age of Hollywood. Okay. This incident illustrates the tremendous task organizations such as the Film Noir Foundation and TCM face in trying to get younger audiences interested in older films. In an effort to do my part, over the past 3 summers, I've regularly had my 2 high school age granddaughters over for lunch and a movie. Though I've shown a variety of films I thought they'd like, I obviously slanted the selections towards noir. They particularly enjoyed later films such as Bound and Body Heat. Okay, well, you're cheating a little bit there, Michael. Those are practically new films when you talk, because they're both in color and they both have sex and violence in them. Okay. And one of the girls actually took Body Heat home to watch a couple of more times to see how Kasdan left clues revealing that Ned was being set up from the beginning. Good. So that shows that she might be interested in the intricacies of mystery plotting more than movies, right? It was encouraging to see how much they even liked noirs from the classic period. Okay. The 3 which evoked the most enthusiastic response were Double Indemnity, Laura, and Leave Her to Heaven, which is interesting. I can see Double Indemnity. I think Laura is a tougher one for young people. And Leave Her to Heaven, I just think it's so lush that I think people just get lost in it. Since Eddie has had a vast experience of showing films to audiences, which noirs have elicited the most positive responses from younger members? This would help those of us who don't want films of the past to be forgotten. This is an interesting observation, but here's, and I have been, in my estimation, I have been unusually successful in getting younger people enthused about these movies. You cannot present them like medicine. Like it's good for you to watch these films because you're going to learn something, and the best films to show them are the ones that are the most entertaining. And that just applies no matter what. I mean, nothing else really figures into it in my estimation, right? The reason noir films are a great hook is because the setups are generally something dreadful is going to happen to these people, and it's human nature that you want to watch and see if they're going to get out of it or not. I mean, that's basically the appeal of these films. Noir has the added appeal of the people are really sexy and stylish in addition to everything else, right?
Yeah.
And there's no downplaying that aspect of it, right? I mean, you know this, and from our audiences at Noir City, right? I mean, they're stylish. They want to see the clothes. They want to see the cars and the whole mid 20th century vibe. But what I find is the most useful what is your motivation for wanting younger people to watch these films? And it's interesting you put this question at the end because it circles back to the comment I made at the very beginning about how these movies are owned by these studios and things. And if they want them to go away, they can make them go away. But they would only do that in order to use them to make new movies that would appeal because the stories are so strong, right? Then they change the clothes and the actors and all that kind of stuff. But to me, the most vital thing is to establish for younger people a connection between the older films and the films that they're seeing today. You have to be able to build that bridge so that they're not feeling like the old movie is stupid. Then they figured out how to make movies better, right? Because we all know that movies are not better now, but they're also not really worse. They're just different. They've changed the way society has changed. The thing that we don't want is to lose what was so great about those older films. And to me, like if I know that there's a young person who said, "Oh man, I watched this awesome thing. It was called Twin Peaks: The Return," or something. It's like then you have to be able to tell them, well, David Lynch was very much inspired by film noir. And you show them Laura and you say, Laura from Twin Peaks is kind of
Laura Palmer.
Laura, or Born to Kill, where Laurie Palmer is the woman who's killed in the beginning of the film. And it's like, these aren't coincidences. And the fact that David Lynch was a huge fan of Sunset Boulevard and modeled the look of Eraserhead on that film, right? When you like, if kids are into Christopher Nolan movies, which we just talked about, then say, hey, have you seen Following, his first movie, or Memento? And then you say, this is very much what he was. He was a big fan of film noir, and like Memento, he didn't invent flashbacks. Flashbacks go all the way back to blah blah blah, and showing that there's this connective tissue between the older films and newer films, I think is really important. I remember years and years ago, one of the first shows I did at the UC Theater in Berkeley, California, there were these two Black kids who came up to me and said, were there any of these movies with Black people? And I remember how exciting it was for all of us to say, well, it's not so much that Black people had any significant role in these films, but you do know that a lot of new movies are based on these older films, right? Like to say New Jack City with Wesley Snipes, that's a Warner Brothers gangster movie from the 1930s, updated with Black actors. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, there's no way around it, Or a film like Cool Breeze, which was a Black exploitation movie, that's the Asphalt Jungle. It's the same basic thing. I mean, it's not even, it is the Asphalt Jungle. It's based on.
Our Shaft is really,
Exactly.
very much a hard-boiled detective.
Totally. He's in the tradition of, anyway, and I to me, that's just, and I can't stress enough, like, you're not going to be able to force feed these films to younger people. They have to, it only sticks if you set up a situation in which they can make these discoveries for themselves. I mean, just to take me as an example, my father never watched movies. He didn't care about movies at all, right? And my mother only watched, Betty Davis melodramas. That's what she was interested in, female-centric melodramas. But I had access to stuff, and they didn't tell me not to watch the movies. And I just found my way into it, and discovered what I liked. I think the biggest problem now for kids is it's too convenient, meaning there are too many choices. So they are paralyzed practically, and the short attention span, right? Which is all because of the internet and social media and all that kind of stuff. It's a clicking and clicking and scrolling culture now. And it's hard to get a kid to sit and focus on a movie that is paced the way movies were paced in the older days, whatever you want to call it. That's the biggest problem, is they cannot sit still. Because neurologically, I think this generation has been changed by all of the techno stuff. But if you can get past that, I can attest that there are a lot of kids who watch this stuff. You know, I can attest when I go to TCM that a lot of young kids work there. It's their dream job is to go there. So they're out there. I appreciate your efforts, Michael, to do this. I hope you're not frustrated. And have you had any luck? Do you have any younger people that you try to convert?
Many years ago, when I was still married, his cousin Sarah was younger, a lot younger than this. She was like high school age, and she got really interested in Betty Grable because of Gwen Stefani, who was a big Betty Grable fan.
See,
and Sarah actually has, that pinup of
sure.
Grable where she has that tattooed on her back.
Okay, interesting. And
And
does she actually watch Betty Grable
Oh yeah,
movies,
she
or is
loves Betty Grable.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But she got really into classic film, and we were showing her all the stuff, and it was great for her because we were the only people that she knew that was like into that kind of thing. We took her like to the theater when they play a classic and stuff like that, and that really gave her. But that was her entry point, really, was because of Gwen Stefani and then Betty Grable, and then she just got into classic film in general. So I think
interesting. Even Betty Grable made a noir. See, that's
she did. Yeah, a great noir. I like it.
Fantastic. I wake up screaming.
Yeah.
You know who I just okay, this is a little sneak peek. I shouldn't do this, but I'm showing on Noir Alley coming up in the fall in honor of Damon Runyon's birthday. I'm showing this movie, and I'm going to do a whole thing about the influence of Damon Runyon on American culture. And the movie I chose to show is The Big Street. Have you ever seen it? With Henry Fonda and Lucille Ball?
Oh, that's because that was done again, right?
I'm not sure.
I know, but
it's such a weird movie that I can't imagine.
She's sort of the kind of, I don't want to say showgirl, but
she is indeed a showgirl who gets paralyzed.
And
yeah. And it is such a weird movie, but it's so fascinating to see Lucille Ball play the nastiest, meanest, most obnoxious character. One of the most obnoxious characters I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
And it's Lucille Ball. And oh my God, it is really something. I cannot wait to show this film because everybody is in it. Every character actor who could be remotely described as Runyon-esque is in this movie, including Sam Levine, like doing a test drive as Nathan Detroit, which he would play on stage, but of course they wouldn't let him play it in the movie version, right?
It's too bad. I love Sam Levine.
Oh, he's so good. Anyway, that's it. That's my spiel. So again, good luck, Michael. And I have had, all I can say is it's easier to do this in big market areas where kids can actually go see the movies in theaters and get that vibe. So like Noir City has been really, really valuable as a magnet for younger people to go and see that it's not like going to a museum. It's not stodgy. There's life in these films. There's life in the people who love the films. And if they choose to be a part of that, that's great, and I will certainly attest that it's more younger women than men that will embrace old movies. That's sadly a fact, but I'm working on the guys. Trying to make them know that it's actually a cool thing to like old movies. So we'll see how long I can keep going with that. Okay. And look at that.
Yeah.
Exactly 90 minutes. Like that's amazing. Like, how do we do that?
We did it again.
I didn't glance at the clock, but it was like, wow, that was exactly 90 minutes. Okay. And now I'm going to go take my wife out to lunch, and we're going to go do some shopping. So that's my big day.
That sounds awesome. I am going to go do my laundry.
Very good. Very good.
And I think watch some more. I've been rewatching the Poirot series, so I may watch a little more of that.
Excellent. I finally watched every single episode of the Maigret series that Bruno Cremer did. I've watched
Oh,
every single episode now. Kath and I just did a thing called Maigret Monday, where
wow.
every Monday night we would watch one of those, and they were really really good. And it was 9 seasons. It was 9 years
Oh,
of
wow.
shows, and
Yeah.
we watched we watched them all.
I should
So
do I should do that. I love Maigret. He's
you
just
would really dig it, and I
yeah.
just think he's kind of become the definitive version of the character for
Yeah.
me. I love his whole style and attitude, and anyway, and they're all 90 minutes, so they really let him play out, and you
Oh,
get a
good.
lot.
So they really like give it room to breathe.
You get the environment, and the characters are everything.
Yeah.
It's not just the plots, that it really is understanding French Moors and the attitudes of the people, and it's a great show.
And I
And
just also
great books.
just love his relationship with Madame, with his wife,
Oh,
is
yeah.
one of my favorite things over the course of reading the books. Is there's because they kind of remind me of Columbo, the way Columbo taught. We don't actually ever see Columbo's wife, but
Well, very, very similar. He's just always taking a phone call at the office and
yeah,
saying, "No, I won't be home." And all. I
even
mean, there are several where she's a character,
yeah,
in
yeah.
the
There's one where
books,
she
but
gets her case.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So there's that one too. But I should watch. Is that on MHC?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, now
Okay.
we're over
Great.
90 minutes. Okay,
Damn it.
so I promise next time Tizzy will make an appearance.
Cool.
Okay,
Great.
we'll see you later. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube.
Bye.